Is AEW's refusal to pivot hurting the company? Let's talk about it. AEW's Death Rider story has not hit. I made a whole video 3 months ago talking about all of my frustrations with one of the stories that I was most hyped about in recent memory. However, last week they had the perfect opportunity to pivot away from the story due to the cachet that they had with Hangman and Swerve, one of the best stories told in modern professional wrestling. This was the moment that Swerve Strickland could once again be crowned AEW champion exactly a year after he was champion at AEW Dynasty 2024, but they decided not to. AEW had the advantage of WWE consistently giving us underwhelming stories leading up to WrestleMania. And AEW, for the most part, does a really good job at giving fans what they want in the right moments. They were created and heralded for having their ears to the ground of what's happening in professional wrestling and brought in fans that were so tired of the monotonous storytelling that WWE was giving them in the late 2010s and early 2020s. As WWE would continue to scold fans to let this play out, it became evident that that was their way of pushing off bad writing and hoping for a save in the long term. They were attempting to patch up bullet holes with band-aids, and it led a lot of people to go over to watch AEW, a more concrete and concise storytelling and wrestling show that gave fans the endings that they were so clamoring for. However, now it seems the Death Rider story puts AEW in a similar position to WWE back in the day. With fans' frustration at an all-time high, we saw the lights go out, and it was the Young Bucks costing Swerve Strickland the world title. It led to a ton of frustration online and even people leaving the arena for the Dynasty show. Now, I've done a huge deep dive 3 months ago on all of my frustrations with the story, and it started with what they were doing at Full Gear. It felt like the consequences that the Death Riders were saying they weren't really implementing. But at that time, when I recorded that video in January, I said that these things were very fixable. One of the best things about the AEW timeline, the best part is after World's End and we get to Revolution. You have 3 months of no pay-per-views and you just have great storytelling to tell. And usually Revolution is typically AEW's best pay-per-view because of that, because of how concrete and great those storylines are. And the payoffs are really, really satisfying. That did not happen here. They were dealing with the Cope storyline. I thought that there was even a possibility that Kenny Omega was getting involved. Kenny Omega came back and he has next to no care about what the Death Riders are doing. Will Ospreay has set off his focus once again, no longer focusing on the Death Riders. And while in that video, I did hope for Swerve and Hangman to get involved, and now they seemingly are involved. Obviously, Swerve, of course. It feels like AEW has done such a poor job with this story that fans were ready to just put their hands up and say, just give it to Swerve, give us Swerve Hangman, the best story. Obviously, a story that we have confidence that you guys can tell super, super well. Just give us that and we'll be happy. And that didn't happen. I unfortunately am not excited about the Young Bucks' involvement into this story. I thought if the Young Bucks were going to be involved, Jon Moxley and the Death Riders should be choking out the Bucks, because you can tell from a million miles away that the Bucks are not there to achieve the Death Riders' goal of elevating the rest of the company. Now, could this be a possible swerve into the story? Or could this be a long-term part of the story that they were attempting to tell, that Jon Moxley, once he has the title, has gotten obsessed with the championship and has become a hypocrite? He's actually not there to help out the young talents. He's actually just there to help out himself. Something that Swerve Strickland mentioned not too long ago. Now, I personally think that it's obvious that Darby Allin is going to win the AEW World Championship. But the question is, when? Darby Allin is beginning his climb on Mount Everest. He's been gone for so long that we all kind of thought, is Darby on top of a mountain right now? And looks like he really needed to train for this. So all of this time that he's been gone, he hasn't even started the climb. Now, the climb takes about 2 months. So if Darby Allin is to come back, it's probably going to be around All In. But of course, he's not going to be in the world title match when he comes back at All In. He's not being a part of the Owen. So we're probably looking at past All In for Jon Moxley to drop the championship to him. Now, originally, I loved the idea of Darby Allin being the guy. I was shouting from the rooftops that Darby Allin should be the guy. The only issue with that is he decided to fucking climb a mountain instead of becoming AEW World Champion. And in the process, there was no strategy. There was no plan that created compelling television and created good stories while Darby was gone. And that part is not on Darby. That part is on Tony Khan. That part is on AEW. They decided to run for so long Jon Moxley and Cope when you had 3 months of storytelling to do. I think they went with an absolute wrong pick. Everyone knew that Cope made no sense to the story on beating Jon Moxley. And I was a proponent that Jon Moxley was just putting a bag over Cope's head, bag over Jericho's head. If he was really about what he was saying, then take out the older guys that are taking up the TV time. Now, I do love the integration of Swerve, but also if the TV is that bad and it is turning so many people off and there's so much fan frustration about the company, I thought it was the right time to just make the pivot. Just give the title to Swerve, to Swerve Hangman, the story that we all know, the story that we all love. It's a modern day masterpiece, and that could main event All In. Nobody would be upset. But AEW is banking off this story paying off, and I'm very worried as to if it will. Now, in the meantime, there is two possibilities for a pivot. One is Hangman Page, and both of these deal with winning the Owen. Now, if Hangman wins the Owen, we have a very similar story as to what just happened with Swerve. I think that it would make sense for Swerve to lose, and he goes, I'm still not as good of a wrestler as I once was because I'm still dealing with all of this guilt with the Hangman story, and Hangman is dealing with the same thing. They need to come together to find themselves again. And I really love the idea, but it looks like Swerve and Hangman are going to probably be teaming up against the Young Bucks, which is an interesting pick for All In. I would say that I really like the idea of Swerve and Hangman teaming up. I don't know how many fans are into them and how great of a year that they had going up against the Bucks. But I do see the potential in that. And the other pivot is Ospreay. Now, Ospreay has consistently said that he wants the ball. He wants to be the guy to carry AEW. He wants to be the savior of AEW. Darby Allin told him all the things that he needs to worry about. Now, is Ospreay going to beat the guy? Is Ospreay going to be the guy to beat Jon Moxley? No. Ospreay is going to lose. And I think that it could be this, Cody Rhodes-esque, closing shot of him losing at All In 2025 in Texas. And then he wins the title at All In 2026 in London. I think that makes a lot of sense. I think both of those pivots could happen, but I'd give that like a 5 to 10% chance of happening. I think that we are going to see Darby Allin come back at All In. And once Darby attacks Jon Moxley, it sets off to their feud at Wrestle Dream. In the meantime, we're going to see blood and guts. We're going to see anarchy in the arena. We're going to see some big matches there. And Darby will eventually become the champion 1 year from when Jon Moxley retired Bryan Danielson. We're likely going to see Bryan Danielson in the arena. We actually may see Bryan Danielson even at like All In to face somebody like Wheeler Yuta. I wouldn't be surprised. But as somebody that loves AEW and was really into this story, I don't know if the fans are going to say, yes, finally, that was all worth it. And week by week, when they are consistently tying in convoluted and inconsistencies in their story, it feels like fans are much more frustrated and don't want to watch the product. And while I think that all of this could work out, and there is a tiny bit of way, when I made my video back in January, I said that this was a very fixable problem. Now I think that there's a small chance that they can fix it at this point. But if we are to see that, we need to stop seeing so much inconsistency in storylines, such as the Young Bucks trying to team up with the Death Riders. If the Death Riders allow the Young Bucks to team up, we need Swerve, who is I think the only person that has really called out Jon Moxley for being a hypocrite. We need more people calling out Jon Moxley for being a hypocrite. We need Jon Moxley to start looking like a hypocrite more and more. I think Eddie Kingston's involvement could help that out. Eddie Kingston being somebody that is like, I don't even know who this Jon Moxley is. Yeah, I don't believe the words that you're saying. But I think that it is a little frustrating to have such a great idea, such a great plot for the ascension of Darby Allin, and for 100 million reasons it has went off the tracks. AEW's lost the plot, unfortunately, and fans are going to be sitting through that for Double or Nothing and for All In, and it feels like this is the least enthusiastic I've ever seen fans with a pay-per-view, and certainly the least enthusiastic I've seen fans talk about the possibilities of All In. We should all be excited about all the shit that we can see for All In. And it feels like fans are just not all that hyped about it. I do think that there is a way for AEW to pull this off, but I think that it is slim odds at this point. Now, if I was a betting man, I am, I would not be putting my money on them fixing it. I hope they do. I sincerely hope that they do. But how do you guys feel about all of this? I know that I have a pretty large AEW fan base over here on YouTube, so I would love to hear about how you guys feel about this story 3 months later after I talked about it in January and kind of where we're all sitting at now. I mean, fuck, it looks like we may be going longer. We may make another video in 3 months. Just get a feel for how everybody feels every 3 months about the story. Hopefully we don't have two more videos to make. But let me know how you guys feel about this video, and let me know what you guys want me to talk about next, whether that is a booking idea, whether that is a breakdown, deep dive, whatever. I got some really cool stuff coming out post Mania. I think I'll probably have one more video after this to upload before Mania happens, maybe two. And then, yeah, then we'll have Mania, and we'll have so much fallout for Mania, and we have a cool new video series that I'm really excited for at some point this year. So thank you guys for watching. Doses.